Hey everyone, and welcome back to Alf's Mustang Garage. Today we're back on the 66 Mustang fastback that we're doing the 289 conversion to from a 6-cylinder. So where we have left off is we just removed the rear differential assembly and the fuel line and the brake line. Engine trans are already out. So I think for today's video, we're going to take all the steering off, so we're going to show you how to do that. You will have to change out the engine mounts, in particular the frame mounts as well as the actual mounts. So that's going to come off. The bell crank for your throttle acceleration, that all has to change because you know the 6-cylinders are on this passenger side, 289 V8s are on this side. So we're going to take that off. We are going to take the steering gearbox off. In this video, we're going to be converting to a Borgenson power steering. Not required to convert to a V8, but we are going to be taking this out and upgrading while we're here. And we're also going to take the sway bar off. So let's dive into that. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to just like take all the steering linkage off. Now in previous videos we already like took the steering knuckle off with the coil springs and everything. If you missed that video, I can put a little slide thing to come across here, or just you know, check my playlists out. So that's all already off and our steering's just kind of hanging. So what we're going to do now is we're going to unbolt the idler arm from the frame rail. We're going to disconnect the pitman arm from the steering gearbox. This has a power steering ram, so we do have to unbolt the power steering ram from the frame rail as well. So you got 1, 2 bolts, 3 bolts there for the steering ram, 2 bolts for the idler arm, and then a big nut and a puller for the pitman arm. We'll show you how to do that. Okay, you just gotta hold one side and maybe hit the other side with an impact. That one came out pretty easy. Okay, we can kind of gently smack them back through like that. Put the nuts on the ends so you don't damage the threads. Just like that. Okay, so now I got this power steering ram. So I got this 1 bolt with a nut that passes through the frame rail, and then these 2 right here. That does not appear to be a correct concourse bolt, but that's just what's in there on this car. Okay. 1 and 2. Okay, so on this pitman arm, you're going to have a pretty large nut. This is a 1 1/4 inch. Nope, 1 1/8. So that's going to go on there, and then it's not going to typically fall right off because you have to like pull it off afterwards. So. Okay, so I just have like a standard puller. You can probably rent these from local part stores, or you can buy this from Harbor Freight. I went ahead and I put the nut back on there just kind of finger tight, and that's just so I don't damage the threads, because this is going to push on it in the middle. So I'm going to slip this puller on there, try to get it centered up. Just like that, I hope. And now back to the impact gun. All right. So if you don't have that nut on, when this pulls, like the whole thing's gonna like come right off. So you want to make sure you're kind of supported. But with this nut on, it's still not gonna fall all the way off. And there she is. Go ahead and, yeah. Okay, so now, let's go ahead and get that other end and pull the puller off. Get the nut and just like that. Oop, I got her. Okay, that's the whole steering. Whole power steering system. Okay, so now we can undo your motor mount frame mounts, okay? So again, you got 9/16 on one side, impact on the other side, and we're just gonna take this whole frame mount with the engine mount with it. Okay, let her rip. Very good. Yahoo! All right. There's a 6-cylinder engine frame mount. All right. All right. Okay, so now we're just going to take our sway bar off. This is going to get an upgrade. Again, not a requirement, but I do like to upgrade my sway bars to a bigger, like 1-inch style. So, previous video we already undid the links from the control arms. Now you're just doing the mounts. So you got a 9/16 here. So you're going to hold the wrench up top and run a ratchet or impact gun underneath. Cool. Okay, so now that you have all this steering off, like we want to take this gearbox off. But before we do that, because it just has 3 bolts that go through the frame rail, but before you just unbolt it, you have to take the steering wheel off inside the car, and you need to take this steering column tube off as well. So this car is going to get a Borgenson power steering upgrade. So like before we actually slide out the column tube from inside the car, we're gonna like mark this, because on a Borgenson conversion, you actually have to cut this column tube. So we're just gonna kind of, while it's fully installed, we're gonna take our Sharpie marker and just mark it. And we've done enough of these Borgenson conversions that we like to cut them at an angle, so it makes a really nice clean cut, and it kind of pokes through just enough to give you enough room for the rag joint, which is for a Borgenson conversion. So, and we'll kind of dive into that in a later video, but I do want to mark this before we remove it. Okay, we're inside the car now. So in order to remove the steering wheel, you got your center horn cap. So you're gonna push this in and twist it like that. And that should release that. You got a large spring on the back there. So we're going to set that aside, and now you're going to gain access to your large nut here in the center. That's a 15/16. So we're going to undo that. Gosh, I don't even know if that was on there tight. Jeez. Okay, sometimes you can get lucky and just pull them off. Most of the time you need to use a steering wheel puller. Okay, so I do like to put the center nut back on, just kind of finger loose. This just kind of helps keep this kind of on point, and that doesn't slip off and damage threads. Put the flat side of the nut here to these holes. Sometimes these threads get a little buggered because they're kind of like exposed the entire time. They don't have an actual bolt or anything in them. So for the last 60 years, they can kind of grow a little bit of rust, but they do go in. You gotta get some good bites on there. Okay, now you're set up, and now all you do is tighten this nut, and it should just pop it right off. Okay, so now you can just kind of do this by hand, or an impact kind of works. And now she popped off. There's a spring behind here too, so it's going to give you a little bit of spring pressure as you take this off. There's your steering wheel, there's a spring, and there's that solid shaft that's connected down to your steering gearbox. So now that that's all off, you should be able to slide that whole unit out together. Okay, so now that you have your steering wheel off, we're gonna slide this column tube off. So we have a retainer strap right here. There's going to be a couple of 1/2-inch nuts here with some studs, and then we want to disconnect our turn signal switch connector, and there should be a couple of connectors right there that we need to undo. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, it's pretty hard to see on camera, but there's the smaller connector. Pull it out a little bit so you guys can see. And then here's the bigger connector. You just got a couple of push tabs to just kind of pinch it and work it off like that. Okay, so now that's free, and now you just have our 1/2-inch right here for the strap. Oh, is that a 1/2-inch? This side's a 1/2-inch. As you loosen this, it's going to kind of drop down. So there we go. It kind of came out with the stud. There's your little bracket there. So now this is just kind of like hanging there, and because you have the top piece off, it should. So now that you have your bracket off, and you're all disconnected on your turn signal switch, you should be able to just pull this out. Sometimes they're kind of stuck on there a little bit, but the whole tube is gonna come right off, just like that. That was like a little retainer bushing for the shaft that goes right there. But yeah, now that's off. Now we can get that whole gearbox out of there. Okay, so now that we have our steering column tube out of the way, now it's just these 3 bolts right here on the opposite side of the frame rail. We'll take this gearbox out, and then we just have to pull the whole assembly out, because that whole long shaft is attached on the early cars, 65, 6, 7, and I think mid 68 they kind of went to a rag joint style. And the last bolt here kind of gets a little tipsy, so just kind of make sure you got a hold of this sucker. They're a little heavy. All right, and that's your steering gear removal. Okay, so this gas pedal's got to come off. So if I can put this in here to where you can see, you're going to have a Phillip head screw right there. And then you also have a spring that is right here. So you can flop that spring off like that. And then get to the Phillip head screw. Now this is out, you can get a better look at it, but that screw just kind of goes through right there. And that's it. Okay, so we just have this bell crank that I kind of wanted to just kind of demonstrate, because the bell crank is different on a 6-cylinder versus a 289. So we're going to go ahead and take this off. We already removed the gas pedal from inside, because you want to do that first. So we just have 1, 2, 3, 4 of these little 3/8 on here. Come out like that. So there's the 6-cylinder accelerator bell crank with the automatic drains kick down, and we'll replace that with the VA one. Okay, so I think I'm gonna make that a video. So that kind of has like all of the front stuff off: steering, sway bar, bell crank, steering gear. From here we're gonna do a lot of engine bay and firewall stuff. I probably won't bore you with kind of doing all this stuff. It's not a requirement for converting. We're going to be doing stuff like, we're going to take all of this stuff off of the engine bay and firewall, because we're going to do a lot of cleaning and repainting in here. But as far as converting on your 289 or 6-cylinder 289, it's just kind of not a required thing. So other little things are going to be like the master cylinder is going to come off. We are going to demonstrate how, or the brakes that we like to use, because we are going to put V8 spindles and front Kelsey Hayes disc brakes on this thing. Let's see other things. It's going to have AC still. We're going to still run the factory heater box. Starter solenoid will be the same. The battery shade, we got to take that out and do some rust repair there. AC condenser is probably going to get replaced. It will get AC. Voltage regulator is going to stay the same. The washer fluid pump is going to stay the same. Maybe get a new one. Washer fluid bag is going to stay the same. So all that kind of stuff. Anyway, we won't make a video of that, but we will be taking it off, and we will be painting this engine bay and cleaning it all up. So with that being said, if you found the video to be helpful, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you want to follow us along and kind of see what we're up to, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and we will catch you next time.